Hello and welcome to the Tough Cover Podcast. I am your host, Mark Henry Jr., as always, and you can follow me at Mark Henry Jr. _, and you can follow the podcast at Tough Cover Pod, and you can follow the Painted Lines at the Painted Lines, and please subscribe wherever you're watching this on the Painted Lines on YouTube, or give them a follow on Twitter. We had a great start to October yesterday after my best ever month in September. We went 6-5, but we hit our big bet in Kansas State. Nevada hit a huge plus 200 money line for us. So we are moving into NFL Sunday with some green in our jeans, with some cash to play with. So let's start it off. Let's get this going fast since I'm going a little later at you guys. At 1 o'clock, I like the Cleveland Browns -1 at the Minnesota Vikings for 4 units. The Vikings are one of the more public plays I've ever seen. Everyone's on the Vikings. Everyone I've talked to loves the Vikings. People are overreacting to the Vikings win over Seattle and how good Kirk Cousins has looked against bad defenses. And people are underreacting to how good this Browns team is due to their running game and defense. And I don't know how the Vikings are going to maintain that. This is a simple pick the better team spot. Minnesota is not desperate anymore like they were last week when I ignored that and lost that on a bet. Cleveland has a markedly better defense with superstar Myles Garrett and budding stars Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and Denzel Ward. I think we'll see Kirk Cousins come back to life and start turtling in the pocket to Myles Garrett. They asked Dalvin Cook how he would rank Kirk Cousins in the NFL, and he specified in a clean pocket, the best in the game. Even Dalvin knows that Cousins changes and folds with pressure, which Cleveland brings with just their D-line. I think Baker Mayfield and Cousins are in the exact same tier. I think Cleveland has the best running game in football, so I think they have a massive advantage that becomes an even bigger advantage if Dalvin Cook is in fact out. But the main reason I love the Browns here is due to Stefanski coming home to play against Minnesota, against Zimmer, who he coached under for years. I think Stefanski is a genius, and I think he will know exactly how to attack a vulnerable secondary in a Mike Zimmer defense. I don't understand how everyone loves the Vikings while saying the Browns are a sucker bet while everyone loves the Vikings. It doesn't matter. I don't get it, but I'm rolling with the Browns -1 over the Vikings for 4 units. So let's get to my next play here. I have the Indianapolis Colts +2.5 at Miami for 2 units. The Colts are gross. Wentz has 2 sprained ankles. I think Reich is overrated. I don't like Indy's weapons, but I thought Jacoby Brissett stunk for 90% of last week's game, and the Colts are a better defense than the Dolphins. I've heard a lot of people, or better defense than the Raiders, I should say. I've heard a lot of people act like Jacoby Brissett had some amazing performance. This is a kitchen sink game for Indy. I don't see Brissett having even as good of a performance as he did last week, but I wasn't overly impressed anyway. Indy's also not dead if they win this game in their division due to how weak that division is with Houston and Jacksonville and how weak Indy's remaining schedule gets. I am, again, fading the public here just like I was with the Browns. Everyone absolutely loves Miami to win this game, and everyone's acting like Jacoby Brissett is better than Tua. I just don't believe in that. This would be a more confident play for me if Wentz and Taylor weren't banged up and if Quentin Nelson wasn't out. But I'm still rolling with it. I'm not as confident in this pick as I was on Monday or Tuesday, but I'm rolling with Colts +2.5. That's my least confident play of the day. And now we get to my 2 favorite plays of the day. I gave a 4-unit play and a 2-unit play. I have 2 10-unit plays coming up here, starting with 1 o'clock at over 47 in the Washington football team Atlanta Falcons game. 2021 games have finished 20-28 on the over, so it's been a good year for the under. But breaking that number down a little further is important. Outdoor games are 11-22 on the over, but overs in domes are 9-6. So maybe proceed with some caution on betting outdoor overs or indoor unders. And that's just part of why I absolutely love the over in this Washington-Atlanta football game. The Falcons gave up 32 to an otherwise lifeless Eagles offense and played a game with the Bucs that finished at 73 total points. And we know Matt Ryan is always eligible for a pick 6 to help the over, as is Heinicke for that matter. But on that note, the Heinicke hive is rolling and still strong after a setback last week, even in which Heinicke still threw for about 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, even if there were some bad picks. There have been 59 and 64 total points in Washington's last 2 games. They let Daniel Jones and the Giants offense, that terrible unit, wake up against their terrible secondary, which ranks last in the NFL, and their defense as an overall DVOA ranks 23rd as opposed to top 3 where it was last year. I expect Matt Ryan to be able to exploit this as well with Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts and wake that offense up and get Kyle Pitts finally going for you fantasy owners out there who own him like I do. I think this is a close game, and I have no idea who wins, and that makes me like the over even more. So I love the over 47 Washington Atlanta, 10 units to win 9 units. At 425, I have the Baltimore Ravens money line at the Denver Broncos, 10 units to win 11.5 units. Lamar averages 30 points a game as a starter. In his 44 starts, he has scored under 22 points just 6 times. That's where the team total's at. I'm not touching it because I'm so all in on the money line. But if you're out there, you're not sure who's going to win the game, maybe ride with Ravens team total over 22. But going back to the money line, Lamar Jackson is 36-13 as a starter. And maybe even more impressively, Lamar Jackson is 13-7 against the spread on the road, covering by an impressive 8.5 points per game. If you're giving me Lamar Jackson and the Ravens as a pick'em or better against anyone in football besides a very, very select group of teams, I'm going to be on Lamar and the Ravens. And this is amplified when it's a fraudulent 3-0 Broncos team smelling their own farts after beating 3-0-3 teams and the Jets, Giants, and Jaguars, who are 3 of the 5, at least 5 worst teams in football. So I think that the Broncos get exposed a little bit today. I don't think they can score with Baltimore, and all Lamar Jackson does is win games, at least in the regular season. So you guys who hate on Lamar, you can do all that all you want in the playoffs, and maybe that's justified, and they've lost a lot of games in the playoffs, but 36-13 in the regular season is pretty impressive, and he's just an absolute stud. And I wouldn't be betting against him unless it's, the Chiefs, the Rams, maybe the Buccaneers. There's a very, very select group of teams that I'd be willing to pick them against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens because they've shown they find ways to win. Even last week when Marquise Brown dropped 1 million balls, they eventually get it in there, and 66 yards out, Justin Tucker kicks a field goal. So who knows? If they're 70 yards out, they're in altitude today. Justin Tucker, trot him out there, kick a 70-yard game winner. That's the game plan every week. Now, but I know that there's some concern about Lamar's hip and back. Seems like he did hurt that doing a flip into the end zone with the Chiefs. And I know there's concern with the Ravens struggling against the Lions last week. I look at that as a positive. They got out of there with a win, and that'll, I think that was still the kick in the ass that maybe they needed after that Chiefs game to not continue going on a letdown, kind of run here. But I think they fix it up. I think the Lions are a little more feisty than we think, and I think that the Ravens come out firing today in Denver. So those are my NFL picks. Let me give you my 2 MLB picks. I haven't made an MLB pick in a couple days, but I like the New York Yankees -135 versus the Rays for 1 unit. The Yankees need to win still and will bounce back after yesterday's 12-2 embarrassing loss. The Rays have really struggled with Jameson Taillon, the Yankees pitcher, in a semi-small sample size, batting .255, while the Yankees have absolutely raked Michael Wacha for the Rays in a large sample size, batting .298, while guys like Anthony Rizzo and DJ LeMahieu, veterans who have seen Wacha a lot, have absolutely killed Wacha. So if you like it, maybe sprinkle on -1.5. That's just not my style. And then last but not least, at 310, I have the A's +165 at the Astros for 1 unit. This is simple. I bet the A's over 86.5 wins before the year. This game means nothing for the A's or the Astros. The A's are sitting at 86 wins. So I'm doubling down on A's over 86.5. I need a win out of Oakland today, and I think they get it as an underdog. When I saw that +165, I had to go in for a unit. So my picks, let's round them out and summarize them here for anyone that's joining late. I have the Cleveland Browns -1 at the Minnesota Vikings for 4 units. I have the Indianapolis Colts +2.5 at the Miami Dolphins for 2 units. I have over 47 in the Washington Atlanta game, 10 units to win, 9 units. I have the Yankees -135 over the Rays for 1 unit. I have the A's +165 over the Astros for 1 unit. And my best bet is the Baltimore Ravens. I got them at +115. They're around -100 now. So I would still hop on them. So I have the Ravens +115 for 10 units to win 11.5 units. at 425. A couple leans. I didn't put these on my card, but I may end up betting them later on. I like the Raiders and the over in tomorrow night's Monday Night Football game. But the two big leans that I haven't been able to pull the trigger on for today are the Dallas Cowboys -4 over the Carolina Panthers. I really think Dallas absolutely kills Carolina today, but -4 is giving me a little bit of fear. If it was -2.5, I'd be all in on it. And then the lean that I really like that I do think I'll end up betting, the San Francisco 49ers -2.5 at home against the Seattle Seahawks. Everyone loves Seattle to the point there. I don't think people watched that comeback that San Fran was able to make and that drive Jimmy G had they left him too much time. But I was very impressed by San Fran in the second half of last week's game. I think they carry it and win today against Seattle at home and send Seattle to 1-3 into a tough spot in their season. But I didn't have the balls to pull the trigger on that yet. We'll see if I'm able to as the day goes on. But that is the pod. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of the Tough Cover. Click and enjoy the winners.